What is up, everybody? Welcome back here to another episode of Dolphins versus the World. As always, shout out to our producer who is with us, Joel, and Anthony, my co-host, is with me. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. We're recording here at night. So just wanted to say thank you to you and Joel for doing this later. I know you guys are 3 hours ahead of me, so I appreciate you working with my schedule. But yeah, here we are recording at night, Friday night. It's a little sad.
Saving my energy for the game Sunday here.
Yeah, man, you're going. Yeah, you'll be there. You'll be there. But no, I'm doing good. Life's good.
Yeah, glad to hear. And we did get some news today on this Friday that I think we'll just get to right off the bat. Chase Claypool traded to the Miami Dolphins from the Chicago Bears, and it was a pick swap. We gave up, I believe it was a 7th, right? We gave them a 6 and got a 7.
Yeah, it was a swap of a 6 and a 7. So yeah, we gave them our 6 for their 7th in the 2025 draft, which is, I mean, the
25. I thought, yeah. So the value of that is 0 for
that's
the trade, maybe.
Yeah, that's absolutely nothing. I'll pull up a little. Let's see. Do we have it up here? The exact tweet. Anyway, keep talking. I'll find a little something for it.
But yeah, the picks, I think that's what Chicago wanted. So I think the Dolphins kind of made logical sense. When I saw they were doing it, I was half joking with some of my friends, like before the year, I was like before the game yesterday, like Chase Claypool comeback player of the year, not thinking he'd go to the Dolphins. And here we are now. I do think it makes sense if you're looking at it as a whole, like the Dolphins need a red zone target. Jim Waddle and Tyreek Hill are not big bodies. So it made sense. You know, you got a different sort of size receiver, not known for his speed, Chase Claypool, but a lot of trouble in 2 spots now. So that was hence the low value. What do you kind of think about this?
You know, we do this thing typically as fans that whenever moves like this happen, we act like, you know, either the sky's falling or we act like it's the greatest thing ever. And the way I approach it is, what's the worst case scenario and what's your best case scenario? The worst case scenario is you swapped a 6th and a 7th in the 2025 draft, which that's absolutely nothing. That's like the only thing that could be less value than that is if you swap 7th round picks, but that's absolutely nothing. That's your worst case scenario. Your best case scenario is you have someone in Chase Claypool that, I mean, the dude's a freak of nature. I want to say, I know you said he's not known for being fast as far as like, that's not how he's used, like a Tyreek Hill. But I want to say his 40-yard dash was like he ran a 4.42 40. So yeah,
that's not bad.
Which again, you compare it to like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek and Devon, and we get a little spoiled. But 4.4 is flying now. He's 6'4", 240. I watch a lot of Steelers football because my brother and dad are Steelers fans, and he is an absolute freak of nature. Now, obviously, like you said, he doesn't go for a swap of a 6th and 7th because he's Tyreek Hill. He goes because there's been issues, and it hasn't really been on the field. It's all been off the field. Obviously, when he left the Bears, it was a personality issue. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate. From a team standpoint, you can't have that in your locker room. And I 100% agree and understand with the Chicago Bears trading him. It's also the Chicago Bears. They suck. Their offense is horrible, and they're a poorly run franchise. And I think that honestly what happened is you can't ever let those situations create and manifest in you to act like that. But at the same time, like, I understand him being frustrated because he's like, my quarterback is Justin Fields. My team sucks, and they're not using me. And Chase Claypool, again, I think he automatically is our 3rd best wide receiver by a long shot. And with the injuries to River Craycraft and Ezukama, who Wes Welker hinted could be out for the year, it's not a needed move from like a desperation standpoint, but I honestly really like it. I think it's A plus, not because of I think Chase Claypool's now all of a sudden a Hall of Famer. I think it's an A plus move because the worst case scenario is you lost a 6th-round pick and you trade it for a 7th, but your best case scenario is you now have a wide receiver that, in my opinion, adds a really a much needed element to this Dolphins passing game, which is like we don't have any big wide receivers. We don't have any guys that, he can fill in that Eric Ezukama role. He can line up in the backfield. You can give him the ball in motion, and he's 6'4", 240 and runs a 4.4. Like, I just trust how Mike McDaniel's going to use it. And the only question I have, like you said, is will he become a distraction? Will he become a problem? But quite honestly, I think that in this locker room, when you have a Tyreek Hill and a Jalen Waddle, it's going to be hard for him to do that. That excuse my language, but that shit won't fly. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to come in here and create issues. Maybe on the Bears, because and Steelers wide receivers always are divas, always. But when you are on this team with Tua and Tyreek and Jalen and Mike McDaniel's one of the best coaches in the NFL at handling personalities, I don't see it being an issue. So let's just give it time for him to learn the playbook. But I really like the move, honestly.
Yeah, for me, I sort of question more where the effort level is. It was very low in Chicago. Clearly, there was a lot of problems, and a lot of them were effort. So I just wonder, is this the restart that he needs, a fresh reset? And
could be.
It could be. I don't know. I personally don't think it will be. I'm sort of more indifferent about it. Like, I think the upside, while I see what people are saying it's there, truth be told, this guy wasn't as highly rated as we thought he was coming out of college. That's just the truth. It may all be just potential at the end of the day. But he's clearly out of shots in the NFL. I don't think he'll go to another team after this. Maybe on a practice squad one more time, but this is pretty much the end of the road. If he wants to be an NFL player, he's got to prove it now. So maybe this will be what he needs. I did see one other interesting thing I want to get your take on. I saw people mention that maybe they'll play him as a tight end sort of, or have him at least inside more with the frame. I could see it. Again, I just don't know about the effort with the blocking. Could be like a Mike Gesicki tight end. But what do you think about that? On mute here.
Sorry. I don't know how Mike McDaniel's mind works, how he thinks of using his players. I can tell you that, again, when you're 6'4", 240 and you run a 4.4, there's a lot of different ways you can be used. And for some reason, everyone said like Eric Ezukama was going to be Deebo Samuel. Like, Eric Ezukama is not Deebo Samuel. I like Eric Ezukama and he's tough to tackle, but Deebo Samuel is like a running back playing wide receiver.
One of one.
And so, right. And so but with Claypool, I'm not saying he's going to be a Deebo, but he's much more of a, hey, you give him the ball at 6'4", 240, just find ways to hand him the ball. Deep passes, someone who you can't really press man to man. I don't really see him being like a tight end, but I could definitely see them using him, like a Bretton Strange, how I talked about when he was coming out, how you could use him in so many different ways, as a blocker, as a runner, as a pass catcher. And sure, they might line him up in line. Sometimes they do that with Tyreek. So who knows? But yeah, I think that I'm not sure exactly what his stats are, but again, I watched a lot of Steelers ball and he was really good. I liked him a lot. Now, is he, I'm not going to sit here and act like he's Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill, but like, he's I think that before Jalen Waddle came here, if you would have had Claypool, he would have been our best wide receiver over Devontae Parker and all those guys. So
just sorry to cut you off, but Devontae Parker has the worst separation stats for any receiver in the NFL. Like,
oh yeah, well, when he was here, like, I think like that was one of the arguments I always used for people when they used to complain about Tua. I'm like, Devontae Parker's averaging 1.9 yards of separation. That's the lowest by far in the NFL, and that's how Gesicki was. So that's what I'm saying. Like, Claypool, again, I'm not going to act like he's a Hall of Famer all of a sudden now, but like, let's see how Mike McDaniel uses him. This is a tough scheme to learn. So it's going to take 5-6 weeks for him to have a good role. But again, just like get the ball in his hands, the way you used Eric Ezukama, the way, you're using Devon A-Chain sometimes where you just find creative ways to get him the ball. And again, 6'4", 240, who runs a 4.4, man, if you can get him the ball in space.
Yeah.
So again, let's just see how it works out. I would say my intrigue level is high. But obviously, like anything, we have to see it play out before we can sit here and praise the move. I like it from an intrigue standpoint.
Yeah, totally agree. It could add another dimension. That would be, I can just envision it in my head, like having Waddle in the slot, full time, stuff like that. Like it'd be really interesting. And I love what Mike McDaniel's doing. So if he could find some more creativity, I'd be even just more impressed. And then, so a couple other things happened today. One of them that we'll touch on real quick and then talk about some other injuries, but Teron Armstead officially on the IR. Not a big shock. It did look not great when it happened against the Bills. Not a shock also from the beginning of the year. If you were to ask me before the season, would Teron go on IR? I'd say he wouldn't go on IR once. He'd go on probably 2 times, maybe 3. But so he's on the IR, but we did get back Robert Jones. So that's nice to see. And Nick Needham also activated. Probably, I think they're already both ruled out for the game from what I saw earlier. But they should be back here soon, which is a good sign. Those guys were Nick Needham, much needed depth at corner. And same with Robert Jones.
Yeah, I think much needed depth. In regards to the Teron Armstead, look, I said this last episode, and it sounds harsh, but it's not meant to be harsh. It's just a fact. Like I don't count on him as part of our team anymore. Like, to be honest with you, he's just kind of like there, and it's I don't know how many people listening, and even you include, like how much other football you watch other than the Dolphins, but Teron Armstead to me is like Sean Lee for the Cowboys. When he was playing, he was a linebacker and he was always injured, but like he would come in and play like a couple games a year. And it was like, I don't really count him as a player, but when he plays, obviously it adds a lot. I said, and I'm sure you remember that this was, I think, after the Patriots game, I was like, when do you play Teron? Because Kendall Lamb right now, when he's preparing for left tackle all week, he didn't against the Bills. So like, I can't knock him for struggling. Right. But when he's preparing all week, like he's pretty good. And I got to the point where I was like, how long do you kind of just ride this out? And like, let's get Teron fully healthy. And I think they rushed him back. Not that he wasn't ready to play, but like, I look at the schedule and I don't look at any game and say, aside from maybe he's definitely out after the Eagles game. The earliest he's going to come back is the Chiefs game. And I don't think he'll come back then because it's Teron. So let's just say he comes back. Right.
The first game is going to be on a different style field.
Right. He's not going to be in the different continent. So like, let's say he comes back after the bye week. The Raiders, the Jets twice, the Titans, and the Commanders. If you can't win those games without Teron Armstead, you have a bigger issue. And so again, I'm not saying they're going to do this, but I'll repeat what I said. If you can wait to play Teron Armstead, just let him sit and let him stay there, because I think that this team can easily win all 5 of those games without him. I think this team still, even though we lost to the Bills, is a top tier team that can make the playoffs. Sit him till the Cowboys, Bills, Ravens at the very end of the year. Like, don't rush him back, because Kendall Lamb, when he's preparing, is fine. Really, I think we learned last week the main person you have to worry about injury is Connor Williams, because we don't have depth there. I mean, dear Lord. But like, let's just sit him out. I'm not sitting here like freaking out because Teron Armstead's not playing. Kendall Lamb played well. And to be honest with you, like, I'm at the point where I'm like, just sit him and like play him when you absolutely need him at the end of the year. Or like, obviously if Kendall goes out and he's ready to play, he can come in, but whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah. I think they should probably, like you said, just stick with Kendall Lamb for a while. The unfortunate thing is you don't get a real solid test of how good he is playing until that Eagles game. And then at that game, it's, a very big game. But at that point, that'd be a good test to see if he really is playing up to the level of Tehran, which he was, no doubt playing. Actually, I guess, the Patriots was a really good test, and he passed it with flying colors. So yeah, no, I do 100% agree with you. That
I mean, I'm not even going to say the Eagles because, like, I mean, the Eagles' defensive and offensive line is just ridiculous. So, like, if he struggles against the Eagles, it's kind of like if Peter Kohu struggles against Diggs, it's like X struggles against Diggs. So, like, I'm not going to knock him if he's struggling against the Eagles, but certainly, like, these next 2 weeks, if he goes out there and plays well, like, you just need to play like good. I've said this many times with the Dolphins offense, all the motion, you don't need to be like this crazy. Obviously, it's nice to have it, but like they mask a lot of their deficiencies. And so, I think Kendall's going to be fine. The bigger issue for me is what's going on with Connor Williams, which we'll talk about eventually as we get into the Giants game. But yeah, Toronto, I'm at the point where I'm just like, let him heal. When he comes back, let me know. Yeah.
And then the other thing I just kind of wanted to say real quick is I find this Bills-Jaguars game this week to be really interesting. As I just think this is such a brutal spot from the Bills. Like, everything I've listened to this week, I don't know why. Feels like it's really amplified how difficult the travel is. Maybe this is because it's the Bills and they love their excuses. But I just have heard this week like how difficult it is to go play in London and everything. So I'd be very impressed that the Jaguars, a team that's already acclimated to the time and everything, gets kicked by the Bills. So I'm interested to see this game.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the experiment that is keeping the Jaguars out in London for 2 weeks because they didn't go home. For those that don't know, like, I'm not not this, but I'm like really big into like sleep and learning a lot about like what the body needs. And like, I'm really big into it. Like, I go to bed at a proper time, get the proper sleep because it's very important for us. But for those that don't know this, when you travel, generally jet lag, it takes the amount of days to recover that sleep to get on that time zone as it is hours difference. So let's say you travel East Coast to West Coast where I am. Let's say you go from Miami to Arizona. It's a 3-hour time change. Your body's not going to be fully acclimated till 3 days after. So when you're traveling to London, I believe it's like a 6 or 7 hour time difference. I don't know from where you are. I think it's like 6 or 7. That's a full week. And so essentially you have to reset your body's clock by taking like melatonin pills to trigger your body to go to sleep. And you kind of have to reset your circadian rhythm in a short period of time. So it's definitely hard because these guys are playing. I'm not sure when the game starts for you. I think like 11 or noon, maybe
9 a.m. Unless the kickoff.
Oh, okay. So that's what I'm saying. So they're playing it. Not only is it 9:30, which is like that's early to play football, but it's like on top of that, you're like in between where it's not truly 9:30, but like you're in a weird time zone. I still think the Bills will win, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see how much of an effect it has. Because I wouldn't be shocked if the Jaguars took away the win. So yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, if the Jags won, I'd kind of like be like, I'd give the Bills a pass. But if the Bills like came out, I'd be like, wow, this is like a really, really good team, which I think it is. But this would just more kind of scare me. But yeah. So on other news on the injury report, like we were saying, Robert Jones being back and Connor Williams. If you want to get the injury report up here, looks like he's going to be good to go, but. The desert, like my mind's so used to the couple years ago where it was like probable, questionable, doubtful. Like now, questionable like could mean you're out. It's different now. So I think Connor Williams is going to go. I have more questions about Jalen Phillips. But other than that, Deshaun Elliott said he's going to play. Braxton Barris, I think, is going to play. So pretty good injury report for the Dolphins, I would say. And then the Giants are missing their 3 of their starting the line. I mean, it's brutal in New York right now.
Yeah, I mean, like Jalen Phillips and Connor Williams, I don't know what's going on there. Connor Williams, I mean, oh my gosh, if if I have to see Liam Eichenberg play center again for the Dolphins, I'm going to throw up, but it might happen. Deshaun Elliott coming back is huge. I hated last week the fact that they put Brandon Jones in there in his first game against the Bills. I would have rather seen Verone McKinley out there, but you put him back there and it was just awful. Especially since they didn't use him as like a blitzing safety. They used him as like a high safety coverage, which that's like the worst part of his game. But yeah, the Giants, I mean, does it get worse? I mean, their whole left side of their line from center over is out. Saquon Barkley is questionable in there, but I saw today, I think I shared it with the group, that one of the reporters said like it doesn't look good. Like he's probably not going to play. I mean, I watched that whole Seahawks game because I didn't want to watch the film on them because it's just like I'd rather do so many other things than watch the Giants film.
God,
so I just like I had it on the background and I was like, dear God, this makes the 2021 Dolphins offensive line look good. Yeah. Like they are so bad. And Daniel Jones already isn't a good enough quarterback to overcome those type of things and make something happen. They just look absolutely awful. So to be out, you're starting 3. I mean, I'm going to talk about this when we get into the game, but if you can't get pressure and sacks on this unit, I mean, you're kind of screwed because right now the Dolphins are like 11th in blitz percentage, but 24th in pressure. So, different coach, same issues. And it's starting to seem like it's not the coaching, that it's the personnel that just maybe is a little overrated, honestly.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, I was been saying it for this defense these next 2 weeks. You should be able to comfortably hold both these teams under 40 combined points. If you don't, not trying to be over dramatic, but I'd have pretty big doubts about a Super Bowl run in this team's cards at that point. The defense could turn around, but at least in my mind, this would be a bottom 7 defense that doesn't have that much upside, even with Jalen Ramsey coming back.
The only way I won't be upset is, and I said this last week, the Dolphins offense is so good. It's not, I'm not putting them in the stratosphere as the Chiefs of the years past, but when you have a high-powered offense, you're always going to get teams best on defense. And so I wouldn't care if the Giants scored 24, 28 points if it was all like in garbage time and the Dolphins had like 42, 50 points. But if it's like a shootout, like we saw the Bills game at the beginning and the Chargers game, we have an issue. I mean, the Giants right now are scoring 11.5 points a game. And when they play away, I don't even know how this is a stat, but at home, they're scoring 1.5 points a game. I'm not sure how that's a real stat. And away, they're scoring 21.5. But really, that just came from playing the Cardinals, who are tanking. So, yeah, if you're giving up more than 20, 21 points, unless it's like you're already up 30 points, I mean, there's issues. But, we'll get into it eventually. But I don't see that happening.
Yeah, excluding garbage time, 100%. Thank you for catching me there. But, yeah, I mean, anything else, or you want to get into the breakdown of the game itself here?
Yeah, let's just get into the game for sure.
All right, let's do it. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you want to start on defense or offense or overall?
Yeah, we could do. Let's do defense.
You choose. Defense. All right, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, this bottom line is you got to be able to hold this team to under 20 points when the game's not completely out of hand. This O-line is so decimated. I mean, how many sacks did the Seahawks have last week? I believe they set a franchise
11. Yeah. It was 11 technically. It was really 9 on Daniel Jones, but I think they had 2 passes where a guy was supposed to throw the football, and those count as sacks. But yeah, it was 9 on Jones, 11 total.
Yeah, and this offense is just pathetic. Like, I have it as one of my talking points for later, but Daniel Jones is like the film's out now, and Dable just doesn't have an answer yet. And I don't think he's gonna. I think this Giants team is gonna probably finish the year with less than 5 wins. I'd say right on 5 happens a lot. They're bad, man. The defense. There's no such thing as a get right spot in the NFL, but this is as get right as it gets these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I put this game, I don't know how you feel, but it reminds you a lot of the Patriots game, right? Just you're going against a team that doesn't have a lot going for it. There's not a lot to account for. And I don't personally like the get right. We use the term and I use it too. I think more so what we should say is this is a game where you just go back to the basics, go back to the fundamentals, tackle. I thought a lot of last week, 75% of our loss last week was bad tackling and bad trench play. It wasn't like, oh my God, man, they got out schemed out. It was just bad tackling and just sloppy, poor play at the line of scrimmage. And this is one of those games where, I said this earlier, you start Cam Smith, you get those guys in it a little to prepare for future weeks. But I think that after you get embarrassed by the Bills like that, the Dolphins aren't going to take this game lightly at home. Now, Mike McDaniel's going against a guy that got hired before him and they didn't even give him an interview. No, there's no shot they're going into this game and taking it lightly. This is a game where you refocus, build the confidence, you reset. And, like we talked about last week with the Bills and now the Dolphins, I don't care if you destroy bad teams. I don't view it as you haven't played anyone. When you play bad teams, you dominate them. And that, like, the Bills beat the Commanders 38-3. Like, what I'm supposed to be like, oh, it's the Commanders though. That's damn near, like, that's very good. And so, the Dolphins are going to come out in this game and, defensively, really, I think the only thing to account for is Daniel Jones running the football. But right now, the Dolphins defense is giving up 28 points a game if you don't count that kickoff return against the Broncos. And we're too damn good for that, man. You know what I mean? Like, this team, the Giants, is only scoring 11.5 points a game. I view it as one of those games where Jalen Phillips hopefully plays. Even if he doesn't, you go out there, you hunt, you tackle, you come out with your hair on fire, and you just go out there and make a statement on defense. And I think they will. I don't see the Giants, unless there's garbage time points, I don't see them scoring more than like 20 points on Sunday.
Yeah, this more so for me with the Dolphins, like, just do what the other teams have done against this team. Like, get out of there, get the starter should be playing, like you said, come out with your hair on fire. Like, just get out of the game by half. Like, this is just one of those games you want to get everyone home healthy, pretty much, and just win comfortably. Like, no need to make it interesting. Just dominate purely. And then offensively, sort of what I guess I'd like to see, and I think the Giants will kind of take a lot from the Bills film, because I think there is a lot to take from it. As the Dolphins said all week, like, it was tough to play on the road. Like, the crowd noise, I think, was a factor, but I more so just think, like I said on the other show, the Bills executed a really good game plan, and I think they took away a lot of stuff, like just having keys on, like, blitzing corners and stuff. So I'm curious to see if the Giants will do that, first of all, and then how the Dolphins will respond, because if the Giants are doing that, then that means every team's going to start doing that for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Giants defense. I do. I think that when your offense sucks that badly, it's kind of hard to. I mean, but it seems like you were like nodding. It seemed like you watched the Seahawks game too, or at least had it on, and like the Giants had a chance to keep it close, like 14-10 before he threw the pick six, and like they were getting dominated and they were still kind of in it. But two things can be true. I can like a defense, but I can say this isn't the matchup you want. If you're Wink Martindale, like, he likes to blitz. I think he is at a league high 50% of the time on passing plays he blitzes. This is not the team to blitz. You do not want to blitz the Dolphins. And quite honestly, the Giants like to run a lot of heavy man-to-man aggressive blitzing, and the Bills are the opposite. The Bills actually, last game when I watched the film, they barely blitzed. In the very beginning, they would do a couple corner blitzes, stuff like that out of the weird. But then after that, they were like, no, like we're destroying the Dolphins offensive line 4-6. Like, they would rush 4 guys and they would beat all 5 of our offensive linemen and a tight end. That's not the Giants. They are going to be very blitz heavy, kind of like the Broncos, where very aggressive, a lot of man to man. And I just don't think it's a good matchup. And the Giants also right now are 26th in the NFL in rush yards per game allowed at 133.8. This is not the offense you want to be back, because right now the Dolphins, I don't know if you know this. So I was creating this stat because I was like, how good are the Dolphins offense? Like after last week and everything, the Dolphins right now, and this is not a joke, are number one in yards per game, points per game, passing per game, and rushing per game. We are number one in all of those. And this is just like, this is not, I know we didn't play well against the Bills. Look, there's just some teams you don't play well against. And, they certainly have to play better, but like, no, there's just nothing that makes me be like, oh man, I'm worried about this. I think Tua is going to go out there, have a field day. Devon A-Chain, I think, is going to get a lot more carries now. So the only thing, honestly, I'm worried about, to be honest, has nothing to do with the Giants, and is Connor Williams playing, right? That's really it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's just too many weapons on this Dolphins offense to stop it. But the question is, if they could get interior pressure, get to the quarterback quickly, with Connor Williams possibly missing, could cause some problems. I don't think enough to stop him for the whole game, but at least maybe early or throughout the game, it'd be hard to just get a big lead.
Yeah. I mean, and right now the Giants are 29th in the NFL in defensive points per game. They're right after the Dolphins. The Dolphins are 28. Technically, they're listed at like 29 or something because of that kickoff return. It's a stupid stat. That's not the defense's fault. But the Giants are the next worst, and they're at 30.5. The Dolphins right now scoring offense is at 37.5, which is number one in the NFL, even after last week's performance. So again, you're going to kind of already get a score prediction before we get into our keys of victory, because I said that I didn't think the Giants would score more than 20 aside from garbage time. And I don't think the Dolphins are going to score less than 31. Yeah. So you can kind of guess where I'm going with it. But as long as the Dolphins play good fundamental football, I am worried about Liam in there. I can't lie. Like him going against that interior pass rush with Dexter Lawrence and those, like, oh God, that scares me. But also he'll have a week. So I don't know, man. But hopefully Connor plays, but it's a groin injury. Those are kind of hard. Those always nag. So it's that Teron Armstead discussion where do we just kind of sit him for the next 2 weeks and hope that you can beat two very bad teams without him? I would say, it's a risk, but I might take that because we can't afford to lose Connor Williams any longer than so. But we'll get into it. I'll pull up our keys to victory as we want to transition into that. And if you have not closing thoughts, but if you have more to say, you can keep going.
No, I'll just start. I'm going to go back to the defense. So last year, part of the reason they were so good, the Giants, I mean, not so good, they weren't so good, but their offense was a lot better than it was in years past. And this year is Dable just did a really good job of routes being run closely together. So Jones could just go through them quickly. And then if you didn't see it in that quick bunch, take off and run. And now everyone knows that's the plan. So if you force him to just go through his progressions and get to that third read or try to get to the check down, whatever, and he's going to struggle, not only because he's not good at it, but because their O-line is so bad and decimated that he doesn't have that time to be doing that. You should just be able to have a field day here. If you have the first receiver covered against this Giants offense in the state it's in, it's a big problem for them. So the defense should have a field day, and honestly, it's going to be very disappointing if they don't, and jarring.
Yeah, I think going off of that to talk about yours before I go into my first one, I agree where my third one, I guess I could talk about it because it kind of relates to yours. Like when you have this bad of an offensive line, you just got to take away that first read because he doesn't have time to go through these multiple reads. He doesn't have time to take a deep shot to Jalen Hyatt. He doesn't have time to do that. So, like, get pressure on him. The only thing I worry about with Daniel Jones is he is a good runner. And so I could see if we're not worried about it. But at the same time, I mean, they have nothing that fears me as far as why you couldn't spy the quarterback. So yeah, get pressure on him, make him uncomfortable. And I mean, this is a game where if you're not walking away from it with at least 5 team sacks and 1 or 2 turnovers, then something went wrong, because this is just a very opportune matchup for you if you're the Dolphins defense.
Yeah, and to piggyback on your spy, like that'd be a great role, I think, in this game for David Long, because he's not good at in coverage. He's a good run stopper, so I think this is a great spot for him to kind of build some confidence and put on a good performance in a Dolphins uniform, which really hasn't happened yet.
Well, I want to see Brandon Jones. Like, Brandon Jones last year, like, got, I think, 5 sacks as a safety, which is like ridiculous. Like, put Javon Holland back there. Stop using Javon. Like, I know Javon Holland's very versatile. Put Javon Holland back there as single high if you ever go single high. And for the love of God, blitz Brandon Jones. He's very good at it. Stop. Like, that's the only thing with Vic Fangio that I've had an issue with, is he's very stubborn so far. He won't mesh what Brian Flores and Josh Boyer did with him. Like, these are what these players were drafted for. This is what they're good at. And while you're transitioning into your scheme, you have to make it easier for them. So, like, Brandon Jones, this is a great time. Blitz him, help him be a spy, and, like, use the players the way they're meant to be used, at least until they're comfortable with this scheme. So, yeah, for sure. Definitely got to get pressure on him and force him to, have to read the defense.
Yeah. Don't try to put a square peg in a round hole. And
Right.
Vic Fangio has been doing that so far. Yeah, I'd like to see some flexibility out of him. And these are matchups where you should just be able to against Daniel Jones and then most likely Bryce Young. And then this is kind of just, I think, a topic for these next 2 weeks. Here, my second one is just to stay healthy. We already had Tehran go down, Jalen Ramsey in training camp. We've had Craycraft, and this is going to happen. This is happening with every team, but these aren't games you just want to lose any key contributor. This isn't really, it's a non-conference game against a bad team that you should be able to comfortably win against, even if you aren't full guns blazing, which I think this week they are because they lost. So just play smart, be sound. Let's get out of here healthy. That first and foremost, these next 2 weeks before we get into some bigger games here. That'd be what I'd like to see most.
Right. Yeah. I mean, staying healthy is going to be huge. And I think that one of the positives so far is that Tua is still healthy. This is actually Tua's first week 5 game he'll ever play in the NFL, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because this is year 4 for him. But, him staying healthy is important. The Dolphins, he's only gotten sacked 5 times. 4 of them came last week. And if you think about that, that's like less than 20 sacks a year, which is still really good. So, yeah, as long as your main guys are staying healthy, that's going to always be important. For me, my number 2 key is run the football, run the damn ball. Like, this Giants defense is very bad against the run. Devon Achane, to me, has looked like the best running back that has come out of the class, even over he, to me, is over Bijan right now. Not because I think Bijan overall will be the way better running back, but Bijan has played more games than Devon, and Devon only has I don't know exact numbers, but it's not much less than Bijan Robinson. Devon has a good amount, so give Devon the ball, run the damn football, and set up the play action through that, because when you have a team that's aggressive and plays a lot of man-to-man, you set up the play action and they're in for a rude awakening. So my number 2 key, I agree with you 100% on staying healthy. Run the football. You have to establish the run game in this one.
Yeah, and lastly, I put for myself here, just get Watto involved. I mean, it's been a quiet. He missed the 1 game with the concussion, but it's been a quiet three games he's been in for him. And this is would be a superstar on most teams in the NFL and no doubt number one receiver. One of the better, if not the best, number two receivers in the NFL. I want to see just spread the ball around. Like, so much of this offense has been Tyreek Hill, and that's never a bad thing. But, you know, at times he's going to be shut down. So let's open up. Like, you don't got to just rely on Tyreek Hill just because he's that good, and you can. I'd like to see Waddle get involved or other receivers, but mainly Waddle just because I feel like he's just been underused so far.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the film last week. I mean, he's open a lot of the time. The issue was Tua just didn't have the time to really go there. You know, and I said this. The only worry I have with Tyreek Hill is it's not, like you said, it's not a bad thing, but towards the end of his stint with Kansas City, it became very Tyreek Hill centric, and it was almost like ball is snapped, just look for Tyreek. And I'm completely fine if you're looking for Tyreek every play. He's your number one option and he's open and you throw to him. There's nothing wrong with that. But I felt like last week it was very like just I'm throwing to Tyreek because I don't really have time to go anywhere else and I'm forcing it to him. But Jalen Waddle, yeah, he's had a quiet season, but I mean, he's been playing well. It's just, you know, Tyreek Hill up until last week has just been dominant. But yeah, certainly get Waddle involved. He's there for a reason. He's still a very good wide receiver, and you have to use him for sure. My last one, like always, I'm going to always put it on there, probably limit the mental mistakes. You know, when you're playing a team like the Giants, as long as you just play good, fundamentally sound football, limit the mistakes, limit the turnovers. We can't be having 2 fumbles if you're a Raheem Mostert. We can't be having, you know, miscommunications if you're with the wide receiver throwing a seam pass when he's running a deep post. You know, we got to be on the same page. Play good, fundamentally sound football, and the Dolphins should win this one handily, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Quick score predictions. I'm gonna go 38-23.
Yeah, I'm going to go, and again, we're not counting in for garbage time, like anything could happen at the end. I think the Dolphins come out and make a statement. I'm going to pick, honestly, I was going to do 35. Part of me wants to do, I'll do 35. I'm going to say 35. Let's do 20, 35-20.
I think this is going to be pretty similar to the Dolphins-Texans game last year. The Dolphins, I think, like got out to like a 30-0 lead. Like right away, and then they just didn't score again. I kind of feel like that's what's just going to happen in this game. Just got a weird feeling. But I just like to see just try some stuff. And that's never a good thing to do in the NFL, and it isn't a smart way to think. But just kind of like, you know, the plays you want to work on and are saving for later in the year, like give them a run.
Yeah. I'll say this. I think there was a lesson learned from the Dolphins-Broncos game, and that is the Dolphins could have easily had the starters sit after the first drive of the third quarter. And so I think in this game, if the Dolphins are lighting up the scoreboard and we get into the third quarter and we're up by like 4 touchdowns, let's just say it's like going into the fourth quarter, we're up 30-10. Or let's just say 28-7 or something. If we're going into the fourth quarter, I don't believe the Dolphins will keep the starters out there like they did and run up the scoreboard. They'll put in the backups because I think, honestly, when you did that, you're up 56, I think, like 56-13. I don't even remember the score. It was like 56-13. Yeah. And like, then you took, like, I would have taken the starters out like at like 35, or like once we hit 42 points, 42-13 in the third quarter, take him out. So I think it gave them some people on the team a little too big of a head. So I think this week it'll be like, go in, get your shit done, and let's get these other guys in there. So yeah, I think Dolphins win 35-20. Could be worse than that, could be even higher of a score, but hopefully it's not closer of a score, because I think this is not easy game from that standpoint, but I think this is an opportunity to 400 yards passing, 4 touchdowns type of game. So
great.
We shall see.
crazy to talk in terms of this with the Dolphins. Like when if I told you, 6-7 years ago with the Ryan Tannehill offense, be like, well, we're going to put up 42 and then maybe we'll sit the starters.
Right. No, yeah, I think this game, I think you're going to see the Dolphins offense go off. And like, I think because again, they're embarrassed last week and they know they're better than that. And they don't want people thinking that they suck now. So they're going to remind people like, no, we're still really good. It was just last week was unexcusable and unacceptable. But we're so yeah, I'm picking the Dolphins to win by 2 scores at least.
Yeah, use these next 2 weeks just to get better. Take them seriously. And I think the Bills was a good wake-up call. Do like what the Bills did, honestly. Like I don't know how they would have been if they comfortably beat the Jets, but they made sure that they beat the crap out of the Raiders and the Commanders.
Yep.
Just they were pissed off, and that's what the Dolphins should be. And then look what happened when they played a real team. They were ready. They were fired up. And hopefully Dolphins could do that to the Eagles, because I know then a lot of people would be all the way back in crazy town like we were. We were planning our trips to Vegas and everything a couple weeks ago. And I definitely think that that's still in the cards, but got to make some positive steps here. Keep growing, keep growing.
Yep.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. And we're happy to be here along the way. You got any closing thoughts here?
No, just good. Let's have a good game, and we'll see you guys on Monday.
Yep. From us here at Dolphins vs. World, if you're still hanging around, please click the like button, comment, share, subscribe. Let us know. We'd love to hear from people in the comments here. And I'll be at the game. So I'll be there sweating because I know it's going to be hot as always. Glad I'm in the shade. And hopefully the Giants have a better plan than the Broncos did. I don't know if you saw, they're like one, just little, oh my God. But
it's hard.
But from us here at Dolphins vs. World, again, like, share, comment, subscribe, guys, and we'll see you next time. Fins up.
Fins up.